Hi Math 6-5. This is the video for lesson 111, which is located on page 576 in your textbook and is scheduled for April 13th. Only a couple more Mondays to go. I miss you guys. I wish our couple more Mondays were actually together, but since they're not, I hope these videos are doing well for you, and I hope you're all doing well. Only a couple more weeks till you don't have to do schoolwork for a little bit, so that'll be fun. Or at least schoolwork for DE schoolwork. Anyway, your homework for week 10, which is last week's homework, is due today. Your parents can text or email or attach it to Google Classroom, and I'll get that from them. Since this is a class day, you have a time test, which is a time test K, which is on page 199. A time test K is actually going to let you practice writing percents as fractions. So that'll be a new type of test y'all haven't taken. I don't think we've taken one this year yet, so I think this will be the first one. Anyway, go ahead and do that. Excuse me. And then we'll get started on the lesson. So this lesson is about multiplying decimal numbers by 10, 100, and 1,000. So to start off, we're going to review a little bit. I'll write review out to the side of this. This is review right here. Make sure I'm on the page. Okay. So we have done multiplication where we have multiplied numbers by 10, 100, and 1,000, and we would hang out that 0. So I'm going to go ahead and work these really quickly. So we would hang out that 0 and just bring it straight down. And then we would say 1 times 25 is 25. And that would be our answer. Then over here, we would bring down our 2 zeros that we hung out and say 1 times 25 is 25. Okay, so our answer here is 2,500. And again, over here, when we multiply by 1,000, we'd hang out those 3 zeros, and 1 times 25 is 25. We count from the right and count in 1, 2, 3, comma, just like we did here, 1, 2, 3, comma. So our answers were 250 when we multiplied by 10, 2,500 when we multiplied by 100, and 25,000 when we multiplied times 1,000. Now, what we essentially did there is we moved the decimal places. The way we've done it before, we have just hung those zeros out. But if you look back at my original number, this is where the new stuff starts. My original number was 25. And even though we don't write the decimal there, it is there. It's understood that it's there. We don't have to write it. So when we multiplied by 10, we essentially took that decimal from here. See, my original number being 25, I put my decimal in the same place as my original number, and we essentially moved that decimal out one place when we multiplied by 10. So our final number was 250. And when we came over here and we multiplied by 100, I remember our decimal originally was right there in our original number. And so we moved it 1, 2 places over there. And in our original number here, 25, our decimal would be the same place as the comma, so I'm just going to cover that up as my decimal. And in my original number, 25, that's where my decimal was. And so in our answer, we moved it 1, 2, 3 places to get our answer to our new place of 25,000. So if you notice, what we did here is we multiplied by 10, 100, and 1,000. We moved our decimal one place. The number 10 has 1 0. We moved our decimal one place to the right, by the way. We're moving to the right because these numbers are multiplied, so they're getting bigger. We moved our decimal place 2 places to the right. 100 has 2 zeros. We moved our decimal place from our original number to our answer. That's what I'm talking about when we move our decimal place. From our original number to our answer, we moved our decimal place 3 places over to the right. 1,000 has 3 zeros. So there's this rule about multiplying by 10, 100, and 1,000. It says the number of places we shift the decimal point is the same as the number of zeros in 10, 100, or 1,000. If we look back up here, we saw that. We multiplied 25 with our decimal place here times 10. We moved it one place over to make it 250, and we filled it in with a 0. 25 times 100, we moved it over 2 decimal places and filled it in with 2 zeros. 25 times 1,000, our decimal point's here at the end of 25. We moved it over 3 places to make it 25,000. So that's what our lesson's going to be about today, is multiplying by 10, 100, and 1,000 and moving those decimal places to match up with the number you've multiplied it by, okay? And we'll be dealing with decimals to do so. So our first problem we look at, if we read this problem in words, which we should always practice, we read this whole word together, 367, and then we read the place value that it lands in, which is the thousandths. So this number is 367 thousandths times 10. Well, using my rule up here, if I'm multiplying times 10, we shift the number of places we shift the decimal point is the same as the number of zeros in 10 in this case. So we have 1 0 in 10. So my decimal point's right here. I'm multiplying, so I'm going to be moving my decimal place to the right, 1 position. So my answer will be now 3 67/100ths when I multiplied it by 10. Because I multiplied by 10, I moved it 1 spot, 1 hop, so to speak, to the right. When you're multiplying, again, I'll state when you're multiplying, you move it to the right, because the number 360, if we were to compare the numbers, 367 thousandths is smaller than 3 67/100ths. So our number's getting bigger as we move that decimal point to the right, just like up here. 25 became 250, became 2,500, became 25,000. Okay, so let's go to another example. We have the same decimal number, 367 thousandths times 100. I have how many zeros? 1, 2 zeros. So I need to move my decimal place 2 places to the right. So I'm going to take it for 1 hop, 2 hops. Now my answer is 36. My decimal place is right here now, and remember decimal means and 7/10. Okay, so let's continue on. Now I have 367 thousandths times 1,000. So I have 1, 2, 3 zeros in 1,000. So I'm going to move my decimal place 3 places to the right. So 1 hop, 2 hops, 3 hops. That's the new home of my decimal place. So 367. Now I don't have to put my decimal there because now it's made it all the way to a whole number. So we don't have to put a decimal there, but if you did, it wouldn't be wrong, okay? It's just understood that when you write a number with no decimal at the end, that it's a whole number, so there's no decimal needed. Okay, so continuing on, so we've moved the number of places we shift the decimal point is the same as the number of zeros in the factor that we multiplied by. Okay, 10, 100, and 1,000. This works with numbers like this. This would not work as easily with like 30, 40, 50 multiples of 10. It works best with 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million. Anything that is a 1 with a bunch of zeros behind it is where this rule works. Okay. Okay, so let's look at another example. This example, let me make sure I'm still in the video here. Let me move up a little. Okay, 2 and Then I read this whole number, 345, and I land in the thousandth spot. So 2 and 345 thousandths times 10, okay? So I have 1 0 in there. I'm gonna change colors since I underlined it to help with pronouncing it, the words for it. I have 1 0, here's my decimal right now. So I need 1 hop to the right. So when I do 1 hop to the right, I end up with 23 and 45 hundredths. Okay, let's do times 100. So now times 100, I have 2 zeros to multiply by. In my 2 zeros in the number I'm multiplying by for 100. So I have to move my decimal 2 places. So it starts here and needs to go 1 hop, 2 hops. So now my number is 234 and 5/10. Okay, last one. For this piece of the example, I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. So I'm going to move my decimal place 3 hops. 1, 2, 3. 2,345. Okay? So you can see how that moves your decimal place. Now, this one down here, I did as an example, because this one is the same principle, but it has one little piece to it that's a little different. Make sure I'm in the screen. Okay, so I'm multiplying 3 and 23 hundredths by 1,000. So I have 1, 2, 3 zeros in 1,000. So I need to move my decimal place 3 to the right. So I have 1 hop, 2 hops, 3 hops. Now look, when I do that, I have a blank space before that decimal. That means I have to fill that blank space in like we did on the previous lesson with a 0. And then you can put the decimal just to be sure. But I started here and I had to hop 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. I didn't have a digit here, so I filled it in with a 0 in my answer. And that is how you would do that. If you have hops, but there's no more digits, you fill it in with 0, just like we did. It was a couple lessons ago. I can't remember the exact number, but that's how you do that. So for lesson 111, your practice problems are on page 577. So you can have your parents check those over with you. And there'll be a video coming soon for 112. Bye.